All right, we're on Sheviit, Perek Bet, Mishnah Tet, second chapter, 9th Mishnah. So we have in front of us a seemingly straightforward but obscure Mishnah that's a little bit difficult to understand. We can understand it in a simple pshat, but if you go a little bit deeper, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper, you'll see that the Mishnah is actually addressing a very, very interesting, albeit not relevant to us, but interesting and complicated question. So I'm going to read the Mishnah, and I'm going to explain what it's talking about, and then I'm going to go deeper, and if you had enough, you can stop it halfway through or whatever, but I'm going to go deeper and try to explain, based on the Gemara and Rosh Hashanah, what is actually going on in this Mishnah. Okay, says the Mishnah, Habitzalim hasarisim upol hamitzri. Okay, there were a certain kind of saris is cut off or infertile. Okay, Betzalim hasarisim upol hamitzri, Egyptian bean. So there were these specific two kinds of produce, a certain onion and a certain bean. That you withheld water, you didn't water them for 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. Says the Mishnah, mit asrim l'sha'avar. You take off their meiser, their year for meiser is l'sha'avar, in the past. Umutarim b'shvi'it. And let's say you planted it. So let's go to our chart. Here we go. Okay, we're going to go to our chart. So this is our chart. We have ERC, this is the 6th year, and this is the Sheviit year. So let's say I'm planting vegetables, and I plant them in Av, for whatever God off a reason I plant them in Av. Here in Yad Binyamin, they're planting vegetables now because they have irrigation systems, no problem. So they plant it in Av, and then it's going to grow for a couple of months, and you're going to pick it in Cheshvan. Which does it go after? So we said Yirakot, in our chart that we had from Mishnah Zayin, we said, Tvu'ah goes after a third Gidul. So if I planted Tvu'ah, by Elul time would already be a third grown, maybe, if it was a third grown or whatever, then it would be Shana Shishit. But we also learned that Yerek, vegetables, was Zman L'Kita, the time of picking, the Gemar HaPri. So in our context, if I planted an onion, or I planted a pepper, or I planted whatever, in Av, and I picked it in Cheshvan, then the year of the vegetable, the onion, or the pepper, or whatever, would be Shnat Shvi'it. And therefore it would be not chayav in masrot. As opposed to if I'm talking about tvu'ah or whatever, it would be considered like, it would be shnat shishit, and it would be chayav in trumot and masrot, and it wouldn't have to do shat shvi'it. So here the Mishnah is saying the following. These specific vegetables, besalim asarisim and the pola mitzri, the Egyptian bean, we'll find out what besalim asarisim means. It's just a specific kind, okay? It doesn't make seed, so it's a certain kind of onion. Okay, but for whatever reason, you didn't water them 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. So I planted them here, and I didn't water them. Or I planted them in Tammuz. Who knows? They grew, and then 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, I stopped watering them. It says the Mishnah, mit asrim l'she'avar, umutarim b'shvi'it. Here the Mishnah says, mit asrim l'she'avar, they are part of the Shana Shishit, and then when Shvi'it comes, mutarim, i.e. they don't have to do Shat Shvi'it. But Im lav, if not, if I watered them 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, if I watered them in Elul, then asurim b'shvi'it, they have to do shat shvi'it, umit asim l'shana haba'ah. And you take off ma'aser l'shana haba'ah, i.e., if it's not a shana shvi'it, then you take off ma'aser. And then let's say, for example, this was the 5th year, then they would have the ma'aser of the 6th year, which would be ma'aser ani, and not ma'aser sheni. Okay, I hope that's as clear as it possibly can be in this context. We have to ask ourselves a deeper question. What in the world is going on here? And we don't often do this. So now you understand this part of the Mishnah. You know what? I'll just finish it for now. So that's a regular, these besalim, savisim, polim, that's in a regular field. But the Mishnah says, Bishel Baal, if it happens to be in a Sadeh Baal. So the Bartanura says Sadeh Baal, Sadeh She'i Be'emek. It's a Sadeh Baal is a field that's in a valley. Umeluchlachat. And it's wet. And you don't really water it for the pool mitzvah, for this onion and for the pool. But from normal vegetables, you would have to water them. Therefore, the Mishnah says these are a special case. If you planted this kind of onion and this kind of bean in a sadeh baal, in the valley field, you'd have to hold back water for 2 watering cycles. Okay, two types of watering cycles. Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim say, no, you'd have to hold back water for 3 watering cycles. 3 watering cycles. I don't know exactly how that long it is, to be honest with you. Okay, the Bartanura says, Zman hashka'ata, sheregilim hashkota kare'ona. the time that it would take, they would usually water the plants, is called an ona, a cycle or a season. Okay? In the halacha like Chachamim, that if you planted your bitzalim, sarisim, and pola mitzri in a sadeh ba'al, okay, then you'd have to have 3 cycles. That's the end of the Mishnah. 5 minutes in. If you're happy with what we've learned until now, I would stop here, because now we're going down the rabbit hole. What is going on? Who cares about bitzalim, sarisim? Why are these specifically considered now from the year behind? Especially now that, remember, we learned that normal yerek is like likita after the time when you plant it, when you pick the fruits. So why shouldn't this onion be any different than any others? So actually, this is a very fascinating discussion based on in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. So Gemara says that there's this pasuk. Let's look at the pasuk for a second. I think I quoted it for you. Chag HaSukkot ta'aseh lecha shivat yamim. You should do Chag HaSukkot be'aspecha migornecha u'miyikvecha. So this pasuk somehow they learn out be'aspecha migornecha u'miyikvecha a rule vis-a-vis trumot and ma'asrot. Let's go to the Gemara. Tanya. Rabbi Yosef Galili Omer. Rabbi Yosef Galili says be'aspecha migornecha u'miyikvecha. It says in the Mishnah in the Torah be'aspecha, when you gather from your goren, from your threshing floor, miyikvecha, goren from your not threshing floor, right? Goren, or the storehouse. Mikvecha, yekev is from your vineyard. Ma goren v'yekev. So unique about a goren and a yekev, miyuchadim shegedelim al mei shana she'avra. The goren and the yekev, the produce grew based on the water. They need rainwater. So the produce and the rainwater, if it's getting to Rosh Hashanah, nonetheless, it grew on the rainwater of Shana last year. Umit asrim l'shana she'avra. And they also, their Shnat Maaser is Shana She'avra. Let's go back to, where are we? Let's go back to our chart. Okay? Tfu'ah is Shlish Gidul. Shlish Gidul is when the water came. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going to the wrong place. Let's go back to the Gemara. Yatsu Yirako, that excludes vegetables. Vegetables have to be watered constantly. So therefore, they're mitaser on Shana Haba. As long as they're watered, that goes back to after they're watered, and therefore, vegetables, as we saw in our chart, vegetables are Zman Lekita. Again, Yerek Zman Lekita. Back to the Gemara. I'm going to stop going back and forth because it gets annoying. Okay. So therefore, I'll read it again. Ma Goren Yekem Yuchadim. Shegdelim Amei Shana She'avra, Amit Asim Shana She'avra. Goren and Yakem grow on the water from last year, or Afkol Shegdelim Amei Shana She'avra. Anything else that grows from the water from the rains of last year. The Maaser is from last year. Yatsu Yirakot Shegelim Amei Shana Haba'ah. That excludes vegetables that grow on Shana Haba'ah. Umitasim Shana Haba'ah. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Hakulili. Rabbi Akiva says something different. Yes, he quotes a pasuk. Ba'asbecha migornecha miyukvecha. Then he says, Ma goren v'yekev miyuchadim shegedelim al rov mayim. He doesn't say Mei Shana She'avra. He says rov mayim. Let's look at Rashi. Rov mayim. Hem megishamim. Most water is rainwater. Shirov zra'im udelim yadam. Okay? Therefore, the umitasim l'shana she'avra, produce grow on rov mayim. Rov mayim, most water, and therefore their maaser is from last year, rainwater. Avkol gedelim rov mayim shemitasim l'shana she'avra. So anything that grew on rov mayim, i.e. rainwater, their maaser is shana she'avra. Yatsu yirakot she'gedelim al kol mayim. So that excludes vegetables that grew on all water. What's all water? Af al mayim she'uvim, even on irrigated water, poured water. That's mayim she'uvim. Okay, therefore, umitasim l'shana haba'ah. So Gemara says, okay, so we have a machloket. I'm going to go back up for now. We have a machloket. Rabbi Yossi Haglili says, Goren and Yekev al mei shana she'avra. Okay, and Rabbi Yokiva says, G'neim al rov mayim. Both of them say that yirakot, vegetables, are mitasim l'shana haba'ah. They agree that they're mitasim l'shana haba'ah. They all agree about that. So therefore, what is the difference between those two opinions? The Gemara says, very simple question, mai bainayu. What's the difference between them? So they both say, what's the difference if it's kol mayim or rov or mei shana she'avra? What's the difference if I think the reason why vegetables have for the following year is because it's from last year's rain, or if I think it's rov mayim or kol mayim? So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Avahu bitzalim hasarisim upul hamitzri ika beinayim. Based on their opinion, they have a machloket about this pul hamitzri and bitzalim hasarisim. Our Mishnah. Okay, they disagree. Ditnan, as we learned, because we learned in a Mishnah, this is our Mishnah. B'tzeilim asarisim upula mitzri shemana me'emayim shloshi yom l'fnei Rosh Hashanah Mitasim l'she'avar, they go like she'avar, like not like vegetables, but like last year. Umutarim b'shvi'it, if you withheld water for 30 days. So we learned they are not like yerek, they're not like vegetables that are l'shana haba'ah, but instead they're mitasrim. Our Mishnah says mitasrim l'she'avar from last year, like the goren. So the Gemara says that's a machlok between Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Akiva. So the big question, of course, is so who holds like who? Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, remember we said mei shana she'avra. Okay, let's make that. Let's give it mei shana she'avra. We'll get it yellow. Okay, and Rabbi Akiva says rov mayim. So if I were you, I would stop right here and think. Just take a moment to think. Mei shana she'avra, the water from last year. Does that the opinion of our Mishnah that says that if let's say I had a vegetable, normally vegetables I water them all the time. So is it like a vegetable? Even though so now I'm talking about these two vegetables, these bisalim asarisim and polam mitzri. They are vegetables, of course, but for a specific reason, I'm not going to water them 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. If you want to know why, Rashi says on our Gemara, I actually underlined it for you. I'll show you for a second. Rashi says on our Gemara, "Bitzalim esarisim mistapkim l'shana behashka'a achat l'shloshim yom." These kinds of bitzalim, these kinds of onions, they would water them once every 30 days, or for every 30 days, or even more. Okay, the fikach. Therefore, im yishkam b'tosh shloshim yom lifnei Rosh Hashanah. If I water them 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, nimsa hashka'a zo mo'elet lehem b'shvi'it. Therefore, it's as if I water them on Sheviit itself. So therefore, these vegetables that I only water once a month anyway. Okay. Do I consider them like yerek, like tvu'ah, and therefore it's mei shana she'avra, or do I consider them like normal yerakot? So, do I think, so our Mishnah said they are like, our Mishnah specifically said they are like mitasvim she'avar, like tvu'ah. So does our Mishnah follow the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who says that what determines whether you do maaser is whether it's water from mei shana she'avra or mei shana hazot? Or do I say that our Mishnah that says they're like Tvuah follows like Rabbi Akiva, who says that it's a question of whether it's rov mayim, i.e., is it watered from the rain or is it watered from me'ashkaya, from irrigation? So the first opinion of Rashi says our Mishnah agrees with Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Why? Because he says the whole point was the last time I watered it was Shana She'avra, before more than 30 days before. And therefore Rabbi Akiva disagrees with our Mishnah. So interestingly, when we go back to our Mishnah is actually taking a specific opinion about what happens. I know vegetables and I know tuvua, but the Mishnah always is interested in these interim cases. If I have a case of bitzalim asarisim pola mitzri, it's a vegetable, but I water it not like a vegetable. I water it like grain. So do I treat it like grain or do I treat it like a vegetable? So our Mishnah says mitasvim l'shavar. I treat it like grain. But we understand now that we learned it, that it's actually a huge machlokah between Tanaim, between Rabbi Yossi Haglili and Rabbi Akiva. This is very complicated. I hope it wasn't too much. I hope you enjoyed the depth of this Mishnah. It's always a challenge to know how much to go, how deep to go, and how not. Okay? The charts are all here if you want to look at it again. I actually tried to put together the entire thing for you. So here you can see the chart here. You can pause it and take a look at it if you want to. We'll stop here. If you have any comments or questions, and actually, if you can let me know if you watch the whole thing, that would be useful. rspelter@gmail.com, because I think I might have gotten too deep here. And as always, we'll dedicate the learning to the memory of my father, Harav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a great day.